So this is an introduction to a little, it'd be about a one-day project, one short day, not like full 8 hours, of a tactical running board. My original plan was to use the this type of stuff, and you'll hear me mention it in the video a couple of times, and decided not to go and buy a full sheet just for something this size. But this is a tactical running board. It's made out of steel. It's welded to the frame of the vehicle, and we're going to show you a little bit about how it's made. Okay, so a little bit of detail. Tactical running boards for the SUV. This is steel reinforcements, actually leftover material from another project. These are getting attached to the frame, and I'm putting a little bit of a spot weld on the well, I wouldn't call it a spot weld, but a little bit across the lower sheet metal where the sheet metal joins on the vehicle. Not a super high strength weld, but the thing is again, the strongest shapes in nature, strongest structures are the web. So by webbing all of this together, it's going to have a lot of strength by the time we're done with all of that. Now you can see how we've added to we've welded right onto the vehicle's original frame there. Very heavy duty frame on these older Asian SUVs. I don't know if this will do anything to add or take away from any rigidity on the frame. I'm basically just putting a good healthy little weld on here on each one of these. The rear one's a little tricky. I'll show you when that gets going. And but the thing is, if I did just bolt underneath, I'm a heavy guy, and what we're going to be using this for is going to be a little different from average. Now, the vehicle did have some original mounting points here. Let's see if that shows up. Yeah, right there and right there. We're not using those. I'm going with a welded on approach. You can see kind of mist here. I'm welding in the dark here for a little bit. But the strength on this is going to come from the sides. No single one of these would really hold a lot of weight, but we're going to make it so that this thing can take a fully loaded guy just basically riding the running board, hanging onto the roof rack. The other thing is at the back, this one is the one that takes a lot of weight. So I'm putting an additional 1/4 inch rod welded here, and then hard to see if that, then welded to the frame member. It sticks out a little, no big deal. The tire's not going to be anywhere near that, but it basically gives us some strength, a little reinforcement, because when I tested this with my weight, this thing wasn't holding. It was just tearing out of the sheet metal. But again, with the added piece there, I think that's going to be just fine. These are all going to be tied together. We'll show more of that in the next segment. And for the test cut, after doing the blade change, I did an angled cut. I needed to make 2 copies of this piece, so I just kind of do a little ticky cut to mark my spot. Whoop. Right there. We're going to pull this out of the way. And a little tricky for me to hold the piece steady and hold the camera, so I'll brace my arm on there. Remember, it was this notch, not a super high precision cut here. Alright, and I like to leave that little tail on just so nothing's banging down, and that's how that works after a blade change. Okay, the other supports are added. A little bit of judicious trimming just so that I get a relatively smooth flow when I put the other side piece on. And then what I'm basically shooting for is the overall width to be just slightly wider than the outside mirror. A little bit of judicious trimming because I'm going to be putting that other piece on, and it's going to have a curvature to it. And then what we're looking for is an overall width that doesn't stretch too far outside of what the mirror would on its outermost adjustment. That way the driver doesn't get too disoriented or whack a bicyclist on the side of the road or something like that. But I do need a running board which is wider than the average running board so that somebody can actually stand on it while the vehicle is moving. So as I'm looking to avoid having sharp edges, I'm using this flat stock that's a little bit wider than these to go on here, and I'm going to be welding them one at a time and then bending it back as they go. leaving a lip on the upper edge so that when I put the expanded metal grate on there as a stair thing, similar to what this material is here, it's not going to be sticking over the edge. And part of that is you need to make absolutely certain to avoid any sharp edges on this whole thing. And even after it's all put together, there's, you know, a little touch-up grinding. And even as you're kind of using this thing or off-road, maybe you took a dent or a ding, you got to break out the grinder every once in a while and make sure this thing has no sharp edges left on it. And so there it is, all done. Tactical running board. It sticks out no wider than basically the rear view mirror would at its widest extension, but it would allow up to 2, possibly 3 people to ride on here on the outside of a vehicle short distance. I'm going to do a little stunt video where somebody jumps on and then gets in and out of the vehicle while the vehicle's moving. And that's part of why it needs a reach all the way to the rear so that somebody could stand on this while opening and closing the door of the vehicle. I do not have a matching one on the driver's side. The main reason for that is that this is a relatively short wheelbase vehicle, and you really don't want people riding up on the driver's side where they might block or interfere with the driver. So this is actually, it's only on one side. I might put some little carrying thing on the driver's side just to maybe even out the look, but no, you pretty much would only put something this large on the passenger side of the vehicle. Although if you have a 4-door SUV, which this is not, this is a 2-door, you would probably put a shorter one on the passenger side.